Good morning, everybody. It's Dave Neal, stand-up comic and host of Bachelor Nation News. A lot of breakups, makeups, and announcements going on in the Bachelor world. As we know, this past fall, Jason Tartick and Caitlin Bristowe announced their decoupling from their engagement, and all eyes and ears have been on Grippo and Victoria Fuller following all of the breadcrumbs that they were no longer. Well, now we have Grippo pretty much announcing in the flesh his breakup from Victoria Fuller while on Jason Tartick's Trading Secrets podcast. All right, listen, I understand. Jason Tartick's got a podcast about financial security and wealth building and all that. But when it comes down to it, we butter our bread with a little bit of that tea from Bachelor Nation. So we're going to jump into it right now. Follow me on Instagram at DNeals. Check out the podcast morning and afternoon, Bachelor Rush Hour, all of your entertainment news in one place. We'll have more updates on this story and everything else that comes from it. No word yet from Victoria Fuller, but we do have not just Grippo, but his pal and former guest on the Driving with Dave series, Andrew Spencer, announcing his breakup from his relationship. So we're going to get into that shortly. If you haven't remembered, we had Andrew hard launching his girlfriend. She's got sort of like a fashionista TikTok star. Well, they've since broken up. Obviously, this relationship not as big in the Bachelor world as Grippo, Victoria Fuller. As we know, Grippo and Victoria Fuller took over the news cycle when they announced their relationship following people spotting them in Rome on their first date, as it were, and all of that. Let's get into it. Here's the conversation on Jason Tartick's podcast, Trading Secrets.
Speaking of wedding crashers, that's another area. I mean, a lot of comedy. There's a lot to talk about. I think there's something new you guys might be able to dabble into. Maybe you can confirm or deny, but both of you two have been in the news lately. So comedy in dating. Yeah. I think that might be a new niche for you guys. Yeah. Maybe we'll start with you, Andrew. Are you single?
I am single, yes.
You're single.
Yeah.
Breaking news.
But you were in a relationship.
I was in an 8-month relationship.
8-month relationship. When did that
We were
end?
very, very private. Well, we threw off scents. We didn't follow each other. We just until we knew. Yeah, it was just
interesting.
It was different.
Okay.
It was different. I'm trying to try different things of how to navigate this public relationships because everyone you date now, everyone's gonna have an opinion on it.
Yeah.
And it's hard.
It's really hard.
See that, man. And obviously your partner as well. You want to protect them and they want to protect you. So I think a lot of it was a lot. It was a lot.
Do you think it was some of the public pressure that led
1,000%.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Even without following each other?
Yeah, I think it just puts a lot of doubt in your head.
Yeah.
And I feel like once you get that doubt, if you're doubting someone, it's never gonna work.
Yeah.
I want to be, if I'm gonna be with someone, I wanted to be super sure about it.
Yeah.
And I love that person so much, but at the same time, it's there was instances where I wasn't my best self.
Yeah.
Because I was just what's going on? What am I thinking?
And as Andrew shares his story, you can just see Greg knows he's next. And I say this about a lot of contestants. I love Andrew's story. He really moved me. If you listen to my conversation on Driving with Dave, it was so enriching to hear him talk about everything that drives him. Grippo's had quite a journey here in the Bachelor world, from being one of the finalists on Katie Thurston's season to not even being on Bachelor in Paradise, but then ending up with Victoria Fuller when the public still knew she was engaged on camera to Johnny DiFilippo. That relationship, of course, as we're going to hear in a second, started off on rocky waters. But you just got to give a lot of credit for people trying to even navigate these relationships. They can't argue. They got to put on a brave face. They're never going to change people's opinions online. And it's an audience of people that have a hard time putting themselves in their shoes, me included. It's got to be very, very challenging.
What are people saying? And I think that took a toll on our relationship a little bit.
Were you, but did you publicly came out though, right?
Yeah.
So so tell me a little bit, just so I can understand the noise that impacted you. So,
this was my first girlfriend I've had publicly.
Okay.
I had a thing with someone before, but it was never I never posted them or whatever.
Yeah.
So this was the first one. I was I'm ready for this. I'm ready to do it. And it was such a very unconventional way how I did it.
Okay.
We met and I was just I don't know what it was. I was just like, this person.
He was in love.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was
Oh my God.
instant. And like, I was like, I will go to like, I will always go with my heart. And if my heart loves it, I'm sorry. Like my head was like, this is probably a terrible idea.
Yeah.
But my heart was like, nah, man. Like there's so much love with this person. Like like, this is good. Like, run with it. And I did. You know, it was there was a little bit of a Bachelor age gap.
Yeah.
Like everyone know how it goes. They were younger than me.
Okay.
Yeah. So
and that noise kind of
that noise.
Yeah, it's a tidal wave, but that noise is. I always say like the idea. I know public relationships. You know, I've been in them, and you've been in them, and the idea of like going public with a relationship now is so terrifying because if that foundation is not ironclad,
and you know, like Jason's saying, the idea of going public with a relationship, that's like going public with a product that's not finalized. Everyone's going to tell you this doesn't work, that doesn't work, you need to fix this is glitchy, and it's like, yeah, well, I know this is the training, you know, wheels, you know, stance. We're trying to figure it out. Andrew's girlfriend was a lot younger than him. And it appears as that greatly affected him. You know, I'm sure there's a lot of other issues that went into it, both culturally as dating someone with a different age gap, but you know, also knowing that the audience is judging you and calling you all sorts of names and things like that.
Yeah.
Toxicity from the outside will come in, will infiltrate it, and can ruin it. And I think that played a big part in my situation too.
No,
so
man,
I understand that.
It was
I
tough.
get that. Couple things with the new book coming out I want to ask you, and then Greg, pivot to you, is just talk money. To me, it's obviously about managing money with relationships and stuff. Did that ever come into play in your previous relationship?
That was, I think that was, we were so good at that. They make more money than me.
Yeah.
A lot more.
Yeah.
And I was just like, we never, you know, paying was never a thing. We both grew up very similar where we weren't like the richest.
Yeah.
So we never like needed extravagant gifts or anything like that.
Yeah.
We just enjoyed our time together.
That's great.
That was it. And obviously they lived in New York, I lived in Chicago.
Yeah.
So I had to fly.
Yeah, that's a lot.
That was a
That's
lot. But it was worth it. Like I felt like
Yeah.
that's something I would do 100 times over with my partner any day of the week.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. So I mean,
last question I got for you. Professionally, do you feel like now personally the breakup's over, you know, you're moving on or have moved on. Do you feel like professionally you're more productive now or you're in a better place? Like, do you see the connection to personal and professional success or no?
No, we still talk.
Okay.
I'm trying to read Jason's mind here, and I'm wondering if he's asking that question because he feels better now that he's single and doesn't have any anchors to the relationship.
Okay.
Not like dating, but like they're like a good. We just like we were a couple that FaceTimed and talked all day.
Mm-hmm.
So we're on that period where we're just kind of like tailing off.
Yep.
And like I feel like nothing's changed. Like my life doesn't derail.
Yeah. Okay.
Greg knows he's next. He's ready for the hot seat. Come on, Greg.
Separate.
Yeah. I mean, and you know, like when we're out, like or wherever we are, I will never make it about me.
Yeah.
It's never about me. I'm always about.
I believe Andrew. He's selfless. He's one of a kind. Let's get Andrew as the next Bachelor.
Guy. And you know, obviously those days do get tiring.
Sure.
But I feel like that's what I've been put on earth to be. And I enjoy that. So I just like, I don't make it about me, man.
It's good stuff.
Yeah.
All right. Well, your friend over is picking his nails a
No,
little
he's
bit.
not.
You could, you know, we don't
caught.
have to get into this, but I got to at least ask. We know that you guys did not follow each other.
So Andrew Spencer has unfollowed Victoria Fuller, and that was part of how people knew the relationship was on the rocks because, you know, of course, you follow your buddy's girlfriend and this and that. Very interesting here.
You and Victoria did follow each other, but now I saw that you don't.
Wow, that was a great
Was
segue.
that a good transition there? You know,
That was fucking fire.
I had to think about that one. Yeah. What's going on? Are these rumors true?
Yeah. I mean, like, you know, being in a public relationship and if things aren't working out, it sucks even more.
Yeah.
And it's hard.
It's really hard.
So yeah, I mean, yeah, it's sad, to be honest with you. It's like really sad. And like, you know, I just want to respect her during this time and, you know, not go into detail on anything. Of course, yeah, like we we've definitely ended things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have anything bad to say. Like
Yeah.
she's amazing.
Yeah.
And I know that she's going to continue to do amazing things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me, just to connect it, and if you don't want to discuss this at all, we'll just pass, but I want to connect it to Andrew's situation and even what I said. Do you think, obviously when you started the relationship, there was like that whole thing with Paradise and the Johnny guy and all this stuff. And then the public.
For those random people that don't know the story, okay, well, for the people that don't know the story, Victoria Fuller was engaged to Johnny DeFilippo on Bachelor in Paradise. You know, from the show filming to airing, there's several months. And in that time period, her relationship, she claims, ended with Johnny and then began with Greg. She claims there's no overlap or emotional cheating. I tend to believe her, although my reporting, along with the rest of the internet, was, you know, in a place that I would say is unhealthy with regard to how we covered the story, which is why I issued a public apology. I do have guilt looking at it. I don't lose sleep over it because I've made my amends, but I do have guilt looking at it because I think it was an unneeded amount of stress on them. And this isn't a victim blame, but I will say the circumstances were quite wild, and that she was spotted in Rome in what she says is her first date with Greg. They were like, let's get out of the country. People will see us here. Let's go somewhere. So they went on like a vacation as their first date. But that led people to believe that they must have been dating for a long time, and the overlapping. And she met Greg when she was at Nick's house party, when she was technically still with Johnny. Maybe Johnny thought they were still working on things and she thought it was over. So you could see how, because these relationships play out on a TV show that then has a delay, that there's all these questions asked. I could have done a better job. 100%. I should have done a better job of covering that story and not feeding the fire versus, what I should have done was offer more grace and say, well, let's assume their relationship was over. We'll wait to hear back. But again, messy time, wild time, and a considerable amount of, feelings of guilt that I wasn't at least at the very least, put it this way, I wasn't making the situation any better for them.
Space, it's hard. It's like really hard. Do you think that played into anything or no? Do you think what Andrew and I are connecting to with like public noise impacting our relationships?
I feel like that made you guys stronger in a way.
Yeah,
like
you know what?
Really?
Oh my gosh! I mean, at the end,
can you write us a textbook on that, please?
At the end,
I watched it. I was like, oh my god!
Right, show me your playbook.
Connecting more.
I think that the women in the franchise get attacked. Especially
totally.
Especially just like a select few of them. Like no matter what they do.
Yeah.
And like, granted, I think that it goes for a lot of the people, but especially I think like, she can, anything she does gets scrutinized, I feel like.
So we could get into all of the reasons why she's very polar in the show. I mean, it started when she was on Pilot Pete's season. Other women came on and made accusations about her with credible things backing it up. And other podcasts have covered this where they had receipts of this and that. And it doesn't mean you can't change and become a better person. But to say like, oh, I wonder why she gets it. Like there's obviously a very, there is a list. I was going to say laundry list, but maybe not a laundry list, but there's a list of people saying, no, this is the way it was. This is why there's collateral damage here. But it doesn't mean you can't change, grow, and be better.
She has a really good heart. And
I'm sure that's true.
Yeah, it sucks because, seeing somebody go through that type of shit, especially somebody that you're with and in a romantic relationship with, like is really tough.
It's hard to watch.
It's really hard to watch. And I hated that part of it all, but it definitely grew us really close, and we were definitely able to like go through like a really hard time. Really early.
Yeah. So
I'm sure someone like Greg has mixed emotions, because I know, I've apologized to him and Victoria, and again, no one asked me to. It just kind of felt like, geez, what are we doing here? Like, let's let these relationships play out and not have any unneeded, stress on them. But we were a huge, and I still am a huge supporter of Greg Grippo. I thought he was fantastic on Katie's season, the way he opened up, and I thought I still believe he was treated unfairly by the audience, because I can understand Katie was upset with him, absolutely. But at the same time, he's a human. And I do think he was trying his best. I do believe that. That's where I believe in the bottom of my heart. And I think he'll continue to try his best. And it probably, just a scary circumstance. These relationships on TV really conjure up a whole new set of feelings you might have buried or not know you had. And I'm sure that scared the heck out of him. And in the end, as Katie has said, he wasn't going to be the guy anyway. So maybe he was right in those instances. It's kind of hard to look back on it because who knows? But either way, Paradise is no longer happening. And these guys, single are both candidates for Bachelor if they ever wanted it. My guess is they wouldn't because of the way they've seen the treatment that can come from the show. But if anything, at the very least, I think we should all appreciate that they're willing to have these discussions.
That's interesting. That actually served as a way to bond. You guys,
in a way,
to break it up.
Definitely.
Amazing. Well, we'll end it there. Sorry.
So there it is. You can go check out that full episode on Jason Tartick's podcast. He's on YouTube, Jason Tartick, or also wherever you listen to podcasts. And we'll have more of your thoughts over these conversations. Of course, Greg Grippo kept it extremely polite. Therefore, I don't expect any public response from Victoria. We haven't seen any yet. I was going to send her a message saying, "Hey, I'd love to have you on Driving with Dave," but I understand why she wouldn't want to be a part of what we do. But from afar, at the very least, wish her the best in Greg and Andrew and Jason for that matter. We got more about Jason coming up next.